Have you ever wondered what one of the most brilliant minds in history chose not to reveal? What if the secrets of Marie Curie, Nobel Prize winner, pioneer of radioactivity, and symbol of scientific courage, were never meant to be discovered? In 1989, a collection of personal items belonging to Marie Curie was re-examined at the Bibliothèque Nationale de France. Among them was a small, fragile diary. The pages were stained, yellowed with time, and still radioactive. To this day, more than 80 years after her death, Marie Curie's personal journals remain so contaminated with polonium and radium that researchers must wear protective gear just to turn a page. But that's not the most unsettling part. You see, sections of this diary are missing. Entire entries from key periods of her life, specifically from 1911 to 1913, have either been removed or were never written at all. These years follow the death of her husband Pierre Curie and the intense public scandal surrounding her affair with fellow physicist Paul Langevin. It was a time when the world turned against her, when mobs gathered outside her home and newspapers branded her a foreign homewrecker. So the question is, what was she hiding? And why? Let's look at the evidence. Marie Curie's research notebooks, which contain her pioneering work with radium and polonium, are considered national scientific treasures. Yet they're kept in lead-lined boxes in Paris because they're still too dangerous to handle without radiation protection. But the diary, this was personal. This was where emotion, doubt, and human vulnerability lived side by side with genius. During the scandal, letters between Marie Curie and Paul Langevin were stolen and published by the press. But the diary? It was kept hidden, locked away with her personal effects, unexamined for decades. When scientists finally gained access to it, they were stunned not only by the physical danger posed by its radioactivity, but also by what wasn't there. There were no mentions of the scandal, no references to the press attacks, no personal reflections on the storm that nearly ruined her. But this was a woman who, according to her surviving letters, obsessed over honesty, over recording the truth. She documented experiments with painstaking detail. So why go silent in her own diary during the most chaotic years of her life? Some historians believe the missing entries were deliberately removed by her family, particularly her daughter, Irene Joliot-Curie, herself a Nobel Prize winning physicist. There's speculation that Irene tried to sanitize her mother's legacy, shielding it from the stigma of scandal. But other researchers propose a far more intriguing theory. Marie Curie may have been documenting more than just her emotions during those years. According to letters stored in the archives of the Radium Institute, she was conducting private experiments, ones not officially recorded in any scientific journal. These included early observations on the biological effects of prolonged exposure to radium. One letter to a colleague mentions the phrase, "The glow from the sample has become painful to observe directly. I fear what it may be doing to my hands." This was before protective measures existed, before anyone understood the long-term consequences of radiation exposure. Marie Curie may have known, even then, that she was sacrificing her body for the sake of discovery, and she kept it to herself. It wasn't until decades later that the full extent of radiation poisoning was understood, by which time Marie Curie had already died from aplastic anemia, a disease commonly linked to prolonged radiation exposure. Her diary, with its strange omissions and haunting silences, may not just be a record of her personal pain, it may be a map of a knowledge frontier too dangerous to cross at the time. It may even contain early notes on medical uses for radiation far ahead of their time. And here's another layer to the mystery. Parts of her diary were written in Polish, her native language. Most of her scientific work was done in French, the language of academia. But her diary, the Polish passages are scattered, fragmented, and largely untranslated. What if she was hiding information in plain sight? What if the real insights, the ones she didn't want discovered, were written in code, in a language only she fully understood? Marie Curie was more than a scientist. She was a woman navigating a world that never fully accepted her brilliance, her foreignness, or her independence. She won 2 Nobel Prizes in physics and chemistry, and still faced mobs at her doorstep. She lost her husband in a tragic accident, raised 2 daughters alone, and was vilified for falling in love again. Maybe the diary was never meant for the public. Maybe it was a safe place, or maybe it was the one place she could put truths that the world wasn't ready to hear. Today, the lost entries remain lost. The radioactive pages are locked away, unreadable without risk, and in many ways, unknowable. But what we do know is this: Marie Curie changed the world and paid for it with her body, her reputation, and perhaps parts of her soul she chose to keep hidden. So we're left with a final question. What do we lose when the most brilliant minds in history are forced to self-censor? And what secrets still lie buried, glowing softly in the margins of a forgotten diary?